This is my first post-tariff podcast, so I don't know. Are you feeling any different in this world where the entire world economy has collapsed?
I here's how my last 2 days have been. I've been doing a lot of streams because they just announced the Switch 2, and like my job is to have opinions about that. And every 5 minutes, being online, like on Twitch, has been, why are the Switch 2 prices so high? Probably the tariffs. I was really hoping we wouldn't talk politics today. Or it's probably the tariffs, though. I'm like, okay, everyone.
We got to get politics out of politics. There's just too many of them in there.
I mean, video games is all politics. I woke up from a nap to find out that apparently Xbox just generally is now on the BDS boycott list. So I was like, okay, that's the thing to wake up to when my job is video games.
Well, yeah, I'm not envious of you. Although, you know, Switch 2 is looking pretty nice. It's not what this episode's about.
It's got graphics. It's got some of them.
It's got a graphic or two.
It has at least a few. The Metroid Prime 4, it's got 120 graphics per second.
I think that's actually too many for me. I'm getting old. I can't handle that many.
It's quite a lot of graphics.
Yeah, I just thought it would be funny to open this up being like the whole world order is on fire and nobody has any money. Anyway, this is a show where you help support Dice Folk, so please reach deep into your wallet at the $10 level. We'll read your name here as we talk about our characters. It's your turn, Laura. I did not plan this specifically, but the audience has just heard the episode. It's the first one of the Andronicus arc, which opens with honestly an all-timer comedy bit where you and Dan go after DiCaprio's exes and start, rizzing up Lady Falconbridge and so forth. Very funny. But more specifically, you have let the genie Gertrude go, which if we were recording this before that happened, I don't know what would we talk about. That feels so important.
I haven't yet looked at what people think about that. I'm sure that the answer is that they hate it and that they think it's bad and it's the worst thing I've done, probably.
No, they know she's coming back. She says she would. They are trusting the process.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be saying goodbye to that genie, but I was trying to walk the line between I want to show my siblings that I did something sensible and not just leaving my future to fate, but also I want this cute genie to eventually be here because they want to be here and not be an adversarial relationship, and I'm not going to be able to let my guard down on this relationship until I get rid of the whole "you're secretly trying to get me" thing.
And you were very correct. I was with a magnifying glass watching everything you said or did to try to find an opportunity for her to fuck you over.
Yeah,
so
my thought was a little bit less genie now, some genie where I'm more relaxed, and that's probably fine later.
I think that's all going to work out. But yeah, let's start with our traditional first question. I'm going to say sponsored by Sir Alistair Octopus, Simon Lee, Conduit of Chungus, Bearer of Dinkus, Minion of John Con, Mr. Pear, Copperhead Professional GM on StartPlaying.Games, and Spaghetti-O Moment. Laura, where did Doc Hop come from? Walk us through the process of beginning this character.
So, when designing a character for this season, I was really quite late to the party on designing my character. Like, I'm not afraid to admit that, like, life got real chaotic and we were getting kind of close to the season starting, or at least closer than anyone else, and everyone else had already done their characters. And I was looking at the two characters that already existed, which is DiCaprio, who is this sort of, like, very traditional dragon horde of, like, beautiful things, and beauty is a very easy horde to comprehend, and on the other end we had Rex and the symbols of great powerful leaders, and considering there were going to be three of us, someone was going to need to be the middle sibling, and I kept thinking about if we've got two very traditional dragon hordes, and I'm going to maybe buck the trend and do something weird with it, middle sibling energy is where I need to go. I want to be the weird middle sibling that has a dragon horde that is something that, like, it makes sense and you can justify it, and it's a very consistent horde, and that the right people would go, oh, I understand what you're doing there, but that it wouldn't mesh with the other siblings. Because if the dynamic of the season was going to be sibling season, I wanted to be a little bit of weird friction in the mix. And yeah, that trying to work out where that went. I don't remember exactly where it started, but who's its and thingamabobs and doodads, but taken very seriously as academic pursuit, was just very silly to me. I have a real love for something kind of stupid, but you take it seriously enough and you sort of double it back round to being interesting.
It really worked immediately off the bat. I think like the first main episode is called "You Smell of History" or something because they were immediately giving you shit in such a sibling way, which I think is really important to the vibe and the energy of the party.
I wanted us to want to fundamentally be together and to not be. I didn't want to be party conflict in the way that, like, it's hard to justify that these people would stay together, but I wanted it to be enough that it's like, you're gonna bicker over things. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't think that the thing I think is cool is prime sibling bickering range. Like, I wanted the vibe of, like, it's family movie night and everyone groans because of what I've selected. Like, it's my turn and I get to pick the film and no one enjoys it but me, but you have to watch it. It's my turn to pick the film.
Yeah, this is Hop's turn on the Xbox.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, no. Yeah, that's great though. My next question, sponsored by Juman Jack, Sydney Marsing. A werewolf cannot stay on a consistent sleep schedule to save their life. Dr. Goatman and Bim Baba Bee Bo Booba Dooba Doo Bim. I think it's a take on the wizard from season 10. It's also someone just trolling me because I'll say whatever you write at the $10 level. What thought went into your mother, Sycorax, who I think we've only seen briefly on screen at this point, and she's mostly been characterized by her lair and horde. Was there anything you wanted to bring to the table there?
So, again, we've not delved a lot into this relationship, but the way that I envisioned it going in was I wanted it to be the other two siblings have relationships with their mothers that are varying degrees of adversarial. Like, one of them's a very deliberate, like a very consciously adversarial. One's a little more just not, like, instantly meshing at slight conflict with the execution. I wanted to explore a toxic positive relationship. The idea of a horde that is compatible in enough of a way that it's like, oh, we get along, we understand. Where my siblings maybe don't understand the value of my horde, at least my mother would be like, oh, I can see how this is sort of like the horde I value and I get it, even if it's not my thing. But that would maybe make Hop someone willing to be forgiving of some maybe a bit heinous behavior from her mother. Because, like, the thing I was worried about with Hop is that Hop would come across a little too understanding of her small folk. Because as much as I wanted her to be fascinated with and kind of love conceptually small folk, I wanted to still have that little divide of she is still this big, huge dragon that fundamentally is on a different scale to the small folk and will, in little ways she maybe doesn't understand, overlook the humanity of the small folk. And I think her mother's a really good conduit for that to be a thing, is her sort of forgiveness of maybe her mother gets some pretty fucked up emotions out of small folk in ways that, like, you know, yeah, a decent person would interrogate. Maybe Hop doesn't, because I get it. It's sort of like when I collect the things, it's just like the emotional version of that.
It was briefly mentioned that when I asked the three of you what your mother's hordes were, you said, I think, misery or suffering or something that was like fully negative. And then I asked to broaden it out to kind of emotions more generally. And I think that, I mean, it gives us more room to more stuff to work with, but also does, I think, make it easier for you to be understanding of your mother without it seeming like you co-sign the 24/7 torture festival.
Yeah, I think you made the right call by making that suggestion. I initially leaned on like misery or suffering because I was like, I wanted it to be a little jarring, and I don't know how that would have worked how that would have played out in the execution, but I liked the idea of no. Well, suffering just happens to be a strong emotion. It's an easy one to harvest, and it's like, in the same way that like if I found someone's obituary, that's an interesting thing about Bob, who's it, what's it, that's got history to it. That's just like emotionally taking someone's sorrow of an obituary, and I'm like, I liked it on paper. Probably would have led to more direct conflict with the other siblings way quicker than has happened this season. Whereas the changing it to be more broad has left more room for we don't have to address that right away.
But I think the first time that y'all went to Sycorax's lair and you were like looking through her stuff, it was noted that it was similar to the kind of stuff we would see at Hops, where it was like, newspapers and wedding announcements and like doodads and thingamabobs, right? Because humans put a lot of emotion into their little dingle hopper. So I actually thought it
Yeah.
was a really clever, it's not a direct comparison I had in mind, like going into that session. It was just like when we started talking through it that I thought it really fleshed out well.
Yeah, because originally, like, there's the thing where she's got like the strands of like emotions plucked from people, and initially that's all I'd really imagined it being. But I do really like that it's you're both collecting the thing about Bob's for different reasons. Like, is it a passive vessel for the emotion attached to it, or the very slightly different but importantly different? The story is the value it holds, as opposed to like the tangible emotion is what it's carrying.
We'll definitely talk more about the encode thought strands as we see more Sycorax this season. Although I'll just say that that was just directly from, one of those books or whatever. I'm trying to remember. I think it was in the Ravnica guide. It was like a Demir spell or something. So it wasn't like I thought about that and I was like, I have the perfect way to, physicalize
Yeah,
this abstract thing. I was just like, yoink, definitely perfect fits.
yeah.
But next question will say sponsored by Sickly Seraph. Julius funneling money to Florida. The space fighters say to execute the bonus season experiment. Well, thank you for the vote of confidence. Adresti Turing, and I can tell right away seeing this one coming. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a mega slam on me because it's so long and involved. Quote, a while back, I made the mistake of bragging into a mic that I fingered a lot of girls at Epcot. Now my audience won't forget it. That's that they just wanted that clip of me saying that. Now
Yeah, well,
it's
you've
out
said it
there.
now.
I have, yeah. So my next question is the most important relationship for all the siblings is with their father, Orlando. I didn't give you all a lot of guidance going in because I wanted to kind of discover in play how that would work out. And I think I liked pretty immediately is it seems like you and him have a much nicer relationship than I think the antagonistic one he kind of has with Max, like Rex Maximus, where he's always like, being like, boy, you're fucking up, you're being a shit, I hate you, or whatever. I'm overstating it, but it seems like you are much more deferential and it's not working out. Did you bring anything into that? Is that all kind of organic in the moment, or are you going, you don't have to tell me where you're going, but just like what are your
Yeah.
thoughts about the relationship between Hop and Orlando?
So I knew going into the season that I wanted there to be a little bit of friction with the other siblings, and I think whether it was outwardly discussed and planned in advance or not, having essentially Hop's horde be trash was inevitably going to lead to some talking down to. And like obviously that was something that like very quickly in that first arc sort of came to light. And when that was all happening, I was like, what is more of a sibling response to that than to take a jab back by like, tattling to a parent, as it were. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because like that's not a relationship I had with my parents growing up. I was very much the kind of the sibling where it felt like if I did anything wrong, instantly parents would hear about it and I'd be in trouble. But if I was getting shit from my siblings and I said anything about it, for some reason that was tattling and I shouldn't be doing it. And, like, not understanding that line of when is it okay to say, like, you point out that your siblings are being shit, and when is that, like, not supposed to be okay? And it's sort of like, I didn't know what that relationship with Daddy Dragon was going to be until, like, as soon as the response to tattling was an opportunity to be sort of given some position of not even authority, but, like, to be taken seriously in that moment. I think that sort of settled in this idea of, okay, at least right now, Hop is not getting positive feedback from the siblings. What do I owe them right now? Oh, I'm now getting positive reinforcement from parent. Okay, clear. That really, like, in that moment informed, I think I know what the history of this relationship was. And as much as, like, Hop really sort of, over the course of the second arc, backed down a bit from that choice and went, okay, that was a bit of a shitty thing to do, I think, in my head, that was not out of nowhere. That was Hop acting on a pre-existing relationship, both with her siblings and with her father.
That first downtime, I'm not sure how clear it was to the audience, but all three of you were having your scenes, and I think Quinn put into motion something. She was like, "Oh yeah, I need the true name of that sibling," and Dan put something into motion. He was like, "I need to find people who maybe there's a different downtime where it's like people who are against the Gladys Accords." And then so after your scene, I think I just said, "Is there anything you want to put in motion?" Because mostly you had just talked to, I think, Gertrude and hung out with your goblins, and so I was just curious about like storylines. And that was when, just kind of off the cuff, you said, "Oh, I'm gonna go tell my dad about the Navineral's disc." And I know, like, that was such a inflection point because I just was freestyling as having him being upset about that, and it really changed a lot of stuff. So all of that from like a very offhanded
Yeah.
comment from
And
me.
it's interesting because I've had a lot of conversations this season with people who have much better relationships with their siblings, who were, like, furious about Hop going to a parent, and a lot of that seems to be, like, totally understandable response of people who are like, parent was actively, growing up, parent was actively shitty. You solidarity with your siblings because your siblings are the ones that'll defend each other from bad parent. Whereas I come to this from not great relationship with siblings and wishing that a parent would step in to help, and trying to play in that space of, like, not everyone has that relationship of your siblings are the people that, like, you ride or die, they've got your back about things.
Mm.
And sometimes it's like, where else are you going to find that in a family? You can't guarantee a parent's going to do that, but sometimes, like, it's easy to feel like a parent should be that position you can do.
Yeah, the no snitching rule comes from the fact that the cops will just show up with guns and start killing people. When it's either, if your parents are normal and cool, maybe you can talk to them like people is a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Orlando obviously, like, Orlando's a cataclysmic death lizard, so that could go either way. But I definitely think if the alternate version of that is you say, "Hey Orlando, Rex has an Evanderall's disc," and he says, "Cool, I am normal about this," and then the scene ends, I don't think it's a very good show. So
No, but again, that's the thing, is it's like, conflict is where stuff is interesting, and if Hop wasn't ready as a character to push back against the siblings, she was going to have to create that conflict, like, further that conflict with the siblings somewhere. And snitching to Dad kind of pushed that forward.
now I'm thinking about the version of Dice Funk where every NPC just responds, no matter what you say, to just, "I'm going to be normal about this." And there's never any fights. No one has to roll for anything. Everyone is super maximally helpful.
I mean, I've said this in prior seasons, and I know that there are people who are going to be frustrated hearing this. There are times where you will say things to me, Austin, and I think, and I go, what's going to fuck shit up for my character? Like, which of these choices is going to give me stuff to deal with? And sometimes that means, like, causing problems for myself knowingly, because problems are interesting. I have to think about what to do when problems happen.
There have been some real fucking problems. We're 2 months in the future. Let me tell you, it does not get easier for Doctor Optimus out there.
You don't even know.
Yeah, let's roll into the next question though. Eric Ogren completely missed the Patreon tier update. Dan, father of Dan Dan, the most forgetful fish. I did get that reference to the magic card. Chase Sterling, man, my other patronees are going to be really confused. And Tara is giving money to say hi to all the pets. Thank you very much. My next question is about your relationship with Max evolving through the Enobarbus arc, because the audience has heard that whole thing now. Did you feel bad for Dan, who botched 45 times in a row while you basically disco danced through that entire storyline, destroying everything in your path like a total badass? How was that
There
feeling?
are times where I love the dice as a storytelling method, and I think back to I'm going to answer this by talking about a completely different season for a minute. Season 3 of Dice Funk, playing Veltari, I always think about deciding to be a better person and sort my shit out and deal with my guilt, and then having like 8 episodes in a row of botches. And oh no, I gave up my badassness and now I can't do anything. I'm incapable now that I'm trying to be good. And shit like that is what I love about the dice. Cause like, Hop being put in charge, I think, would only have been interesting if it went one of two ways, which was if Hop failed everything miserably, or if Hop was impossibly good at that arc. I think that a middling performance, I don't think, is an interesting result for that arc.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
it's one of those, part of me would have wanted to look for opportunities to fuck it up if it hadn't been going so well, to give some texture. But it playing out the way it did, I felt bad, but I think it was honestly like the greatest way the dice could have told story, because it was arc 1 is I'm gonna poke at you, Hop, and imply that you are pointless and that like your thing isn't worthwhile. And then when push comes to shove, oh, okay, you're in charge. Okay, I'm not gonna help. Oh, you want to ask questions about what we should do? I'm not giving input. You're in charge. Such a like petty fucking response to Hop being put in charge, and then Hop's like, no, I'm just gonna pull this out of the bag and be amazing. I think fundamentally helped. As weird as it's going to sound, I think in the arcs after the second arc, helped get the pair of them into a much better sibling relationship. It was, I don't have to like Hop's Horde, but I can respect that Hop is capable, and should not be treated as if, like, that choice of Horde is somehow because you couldn't think of a better Horde to do, or you weren't capable of a better Horde. It's like, no, you were capable, you chose this. I've got to humble myself a bit.
That is an interesting aspect of Rex's psychology, is that he's like, listen, I don't like your bullshit, but I gotta respect the results. You did come in there, save DiCaprio's life, turn the tide of the boss fight. You beat up a ghost off screen, or took care of a ghost off screen. It's just like Max's peculiar like view of the world. It's just like nice.
The way I see it from the outside is I view it like I assumed that your weird Horde was a through necessity. Now I see that you could have had your pick of things to be your Horde, and you're good at this weird thing, and you're competent enough. You could have done something else. Okay, fine. I guess you know what you're doing about it.
There was also the ending scene of that arc, which I guess in my mind, I was thinking, once you finish a level, you get a results screen, and it's like, which artifacts do you keep and which do you discard? It's like almost like a video game menu. But in practice, it was like a 20-minute conversation between first you all in Orlando, and then there was the split. You went to talk to your dad while DiCaprio and Rex were talking. It was like very elaborate and like dense with emotion, because Rex was angry and DiCaprio was trying to like soothe him while you were talking to your dad and kind of try to figure out what his fucking problem was, and he's like, "Waha, my plan to pit you all against each other works." It's like, oh damn it, it's just like there was so much going on there. Like, yeah. I think it would be worth re-listening to for the audience, just all the layered character work.
Yeah, like Hop had no interest in like pissing anyone off. This wasn't trying to make anything bad, but it was like, I didn't do this to be put in a position of power, but if I'm here, I have to not fuck this up for Dad, but also this is my opportunity to go, okay, if you're gonna be a shit about not helping, like, dragging your feet on this mission, I'll show that I can do it.
And you really did. Moving into the next question, sponsored by Egon, Philip Mitchell, McIlvain, Spirit of Gender, Shrug, they greater than she greater than he, 666, Neopets, 666, and the Peroni. How is your relationship with DiCaprio evolving, especially with the most recent episode where you literally leapfrog over her body to get to Lady Falcon Bridge? Is there an element of you like getting more confident to overcome her kind of snooty condescension? Where do you think we're at, 10 episodes into the season? Wow, so much has happened in only 10 episodes.
Yeah, I think that Hop is having a bit of an arc here of riding off of the high of, oh, I am capable, and people can like me, and I can do stuff, and like I can maybe shake off a bit of the middle sibling insecurity energy that's there. That I don't think is. I think there's maybe a little dismissing of DiCaprio's what's going on behind the scenes for DiCaprio in this excitement to be more confident. But I think that's born mostly out of a consistently looking up to someone and being like, you so seem to have your shit together, and are someone that not only I would be looking up to. That way that it can be sometimes hard when you look up to someone to remember that they have their own shit going on. And that they might have stuff going on that they aren't fully in control of, that isn't exactly the way they want it to be. I think it's almost the opposite of the Rex and Hop dynamic of Rex having to come to terms with, oh, Hop is capable enough that like she's making her own choices and some of her stuff is deliberate, even if I don't get it. I think Hop with DiCaprio is sort of more like, well, of course everything going on in your life is because you chose it to be that way and you want it to be that way. You've got all your shit together so much, I wouldn't stop to think that something might be, in your life might be the way it is for reasons outside of your control. And I think part of that is because DiCaprio is so built on creating this image of being in control and everything being pristine and perfect and exactly how it is supposed to be. But yeah, I think Hop for a while really has a problem with stopping to go, you might be trying to hold it together looking like it's how you want it to be more than it is.
Why this kind of ex-girlfriend / embarrassment arc works so well, because it becomes clear in that first conversation that neither of the siblings had met Lady Falconbridge, and we're about to learn more about Viola, the other plot important ex of DiCaprio's. Why that all works so well is, you all have this idea of your sister as having this perfect life as like a fashionista and an icon or whatever, and then you get even a tiny peek behind the curtain and you're like, damn bitch, you live like this. It's just
it's sort of like, if this had been an important enough relationship that we'd have heard about it, then I think Hop would have instantly been like, no, yeah, I'm not gonna fuck around there. But it's like, it's almost that instinct of, oh, is this a weird little secret that didn't? Is this like a little fling that didn't last very long or something? Assuming that because it wasn't heard about, that it must not have been a big deal, and that it's okay to play around in the space with. I think is the best way to put it.
I think it's interesting because throughout the season, Quinn has dropped hints that like DiCaprio barely remembers Falconbridge. He it's just like keeps messing up her name and stuff. So it's like clearly not important to her, but she's still super embarrassed, which is interesting. I think she's just is a dragon made of insecurities, which is very fun to poke at. I mean, in that episode, we talk about how weird it would be to date your siblings' ex, and we were talking about the difference between human society and dragon society and so forth. But after we got off the call, I remembered, didn't Henry VIII date Anne Boleyn's sister before dating her? Like at certain levels of power and prestige, everybody be sucking and fucking. Sorry,
I mean, yeah,
sorry, Grandma, if you're listening.
That's part of it, but again, like, it's the thing of, is it weird to date a sibling's ex if they barely remember their ex and it was clearly such a nothing relationship you never heard about it? Like, I feel like it's one of those, if you started dating someone then realized, oh shit, you dated my sister 6 months ago, that'd be, like, weird, but not in a way where it's like, we immediately have to end this relationship, do we? Like, we're getting on fine, and, like, we didn't go in knowing this was the case. It's like, I feel like that's almost the way that Hop sees it here, is like, hey, that barely sounds like it was a thing. Why should it matter over here?
Sure. Yeah, I think we have plenty of deniability. I guess I was realizing how much I had created a rod for my own back when I asked for Game of Thrones type shenanigans. I didn't really take in all the possible implications of that. But yeah, it's very fun. Let's say the next question, sponsored by Steffi K. I upped my donation so Austin can have a family and you should too. Dustin Darkwater, a gambling pig, has no regrets except most of his 20s, and Nephis Decidia, the queer sheep, poor jobless, living in a van, finally free of state service. Doc Hop, how is your horde? Is it coming along nicely? Do you have anything you're planning ahead for like downtime to get? And most importantly, the deck of shitty things. How is that treating you? Everyone knows you're jacked.
The deck of shitty things has honestly, like, not fucked me up as much as I feared it might. So far, I largely feel like I've gotten off pretty well from the deck of shitty things. But in terms of horde, I have thoughts about it.
Okay.
I've been sitting with it because I've not really thought that far ahead in the future about that horde, but there's a few thoughts I like about it. It is, at its core, a horde built from sifting through trash. And I think about the realities of that sometimes. Fires at trash dumps are really frequent and common.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a real vector for everything Hop loves just being gone. I think about the fact that she's encouraging her small folk to essentially like recycle and reuse a lot of stuff from the trash pile, and that I don't think it's come up, but I like the thought of us small folk using something from the horde and Hop going, oh, that has really nice Dinglehopper-esque significance and it's really unique, but it's now being used by a small folk, and the correct thing to do would be to not take it by force, because by it continuing to be loved, it's getting more of that sort of history to it that will help age it as a thing. But the sort of clash between, yeah, but I want it in my collection, and it's not even the I want to respect the small folks' right to it right now because they found it first. It's the no, I've got to let it ripen almost of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I have thoughts that I haven't explored about that horde of like things. I think there's interesting texture to a horde that is trash.
Yeah, my next question is going to be about your lair, but we can even roll these together. Do you have it like a really solid picture in your mind of Hop's lair and like the goblins like settlement and so forth? Or are you still feeling that out?
To me, Hop's horde, like core horde, is in a cave that is it's not miniature, but it's got the vibe of a like one of those model villages, in that it is stuff set up as much as possible as if it was in use in the context that it has its interesting historical significance in. It's sort of like when you go around like a tour of a fancy building where someone lived hundreds of years ago, and they've left, like, here is their bed exactly how it would have been. Um, I think it's almost like that sort of museum that looks very you could live in it, if not for the sort of curtain pole rails and the sort of ropes saying no, don't mess with it. It looks like it's there to be lived in and to be interacted with, but that's just so that you see it in context. I feel like the small folk community is very much like cave entrances looking over trash dump, and small folk community is built up like where the trash dump and the mountain intersect. It's a sort of they're not surrounded on all sides by the trash dump. It is. I like to think that it's like maybe the mountain is somewhat volcanic. It's not active, but it means that like there is heat being generated. There's stuff in the soil that's very good for growing. It all sort of works well with the stuff is decomposing in the trash dump, and that's giving very fertile soil. But that like you're not surrounded by stinky trash in all directions. It's just it's over there, but we have like nice green field to look at over here.
I'm excited to get into that more. We briefly discussed how you don't really learn the goblins' names because they die so fast. Downtime is going to start being longer and longer. So even if we did name one, like they're going to get one scene and never be seen again, which might be interesting. But if I'm remembering correctly, and if we can clarify this, were you saying that you were thinking of during a downtime to deliberately take an item out of your inventory because the goblins want it, and like you said, to ripen? Because I think that is exactly the kind of dice funk, unexpected move, which turns into some kind of all-time awesome, ridiculous thing.
The way I saw it going down, but I'm very open to exploring it in different ways. I saw it going down as like a Hop goes down to visit the small folk and spots one of them having a thing. It's like, oh god, I want that. But I think it's almost more interesting if it's like Hop is maybe digging through the trash herself, sees something, goes, oh my god, I must have it, and as reaching for it, a small folk grabs it, sort of thing. Something like that of I've got to let it ripen, but maybe Hop is like, look, I don't want to take my eyes off this thing, it's really good. I'll just hang around for a small folk lifetime and then grab it when they're done.
Yeah, what's the worst that could happen? For them, it's just for you, it's just a blink, and it'll be available again.
Well, I mean, the worst that could happen is that I get incredibly emotionally attached and then get quite sad about the small folk going, and there's room for some heartache in there.
Yeah. I think we're definitely going to see some of that coming up. But to roll to the next question, sponsored by Aaron Norgard, Graffiti, Tsukage's husband, Bones, with many S's, and Conduit of Snacks. Gertrude, you call your big folk, large folk, thick folk. What a surprise that has been, because I was keeping careful track who had the bottle. There's like 2 episodes there where you and Dan are passing the bottle back and forth, and you don't know that it matters. But I'm sitting here being like, okay, one of you is about to get 3 wishes, and we have to really be clear who has the bottle. How do you think about how all that turned out? Do you have any expectations or hopes for when Gertrude comes back? Are you thinking about her being a part of the community with your goblins, or what?
So exploring Gertrude, I'm certainly not the first person to have done you have a genie. The character who gets a genie is very aware of the nature of, you're going to fuck around with my wishes and try to make very careful wishes.
I was going to ask, did you have a bunch of wishes planned that you scrapped when you decided to let her go?
I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go with it, because I was like, in my mind, there are 3 directions to go with Gertrude. There is... And this is where I would usually go, and I'm almost surprised I didn't go this way, is recklessly make these wishes and keep going, oh, how bad could it be, and let it get worse. I was like, that's the easy way to go. And it would be fun, it would be funny, it would... My fear was I think it would derail the campaign. Like, I would run the risk of that becoming what Hop's whole story became about rather than
Mm.
her hoard. And I was like, I don't want to make decisions that early in the campaign that are gonna take out of my control what I'm exploring with Hop. So I was like, okay, the
Mm-hmm.
two other the ways that this can go, and the other way that I scrapped was have Hop lean into the fact that she is an academic, like a doctorate holder, that she is academically gifted to try and craft the impossible to twist back on you wish. And I workshopped that for a while. I was workshopping wishes that I think you'd have had to really work hard to twist back on me.
Uh-huh.
In a way that, like, I don't think would have been fun. I
Uh-huh.
think there'd have been some fun in the audience listening to, haha, the DM is fucked. That's an airtight wish. But like, it wouldn't have been fun in the same way as you were saying earlier. Of like, a chance for conflict comes up and the person says, "Okay," and I respond normally emotionally to that. Like, I don't think it's fun to be like, and I succeed and I get everything I want because I did it perfect. So
Yeah, I
the
appreciate you being a team player. And it's also why I didn't do a full-fledged deck of many things, because it would immediately have been what your character is about now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, a proper deck of many things. I wouldn't have used. I have maybe used it once in the final episode in a do or die situation, and it would have been either funny or amazing. Um, but like, I was trying to think what the middle ground was, and the middle ground was I wanted Hop to be very aware and very vigilant of. I know what this is. I know that, like, fundamentally, you're gonna try and make me like you and let my guard down. And I want to like you and let my guard down, but you're here to fuck me. And to not get that, here to fuck me over, and I'm not going to let that come out of my mind. I wanted an excuse for a wish to be made. And I really like that first wish and how it played out of, oh, there was a consequence. It wasn't huge, but it was enough to reassure Hop. No, 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 you've gotten a taste of, you do need to be way more thoughtful about these wishes. Like, the way I wanted it to play out for Hop was, even if you think you've thought a wish out carefully, you're still, something's gonna go wrong in a way that reminds you, like, yeah, this is above your pay grade. It's the consequences are only going to get worse the more wishes you do, the more that you don't heed the warning signs.
I really like that first wish too. I had no idea Keeper was going to be an ongoing character. Now I have to like think about what he looks like. I think I said in an episode that's not going to come out for months that I'm picturing him as a Jesus Christ lizard kobold now. If you've ever seen one of those, the ones that walk on water, because he came back is obviously the reference there. But it's like, yeah, the consequence, the twisting she did is that he is in the state he was before he died, and then I smile mischievously. You know, who knows what that means? Where there's more to be said, but I think it's exactly
Yeah.
like the scale where it's fun instead of being like, all right, 30
Yeah.
episodes about this fucking genie.
Exactly. And I think that's why, after that episode, I think Hop's whole thing was, I like you, and I don't know whether, like, you're nice to me, you treat me with respect, and I will never know whether that's because you're trying to get me to let my guard down, or because you actually are genuinely someone I can enjoy spending my time with. And I tried to play it like the way that billionaires talk about, like, or celebrities talk about not knowing if people just want to be their friend because they have
Mm,
money,
yeah.
and being like, the advice that people give, like, constantly is, okay, well, give away your fucking money and see who sticks around. And I wanted Hops letting Gertrude go to be, if you come back when you're no longer, like, tied to me physically or looking to get me to fuck up so you can manipulate a wish to fuck me over. If you come back and we still get on, this could be a lovely relationship, but I'll never know while it's like this.
You're 100% correct there. And I, in the moment role playing it, I had her be genuinely shocked because neither of us saw it coming. We didn't really plan this or anything. So I think it's all going to go into some interesting places. The audience really responded to it. You never know
Yeah.
how people are going to
Ve-
appreciate
for
stuff.
what it's worth, very genuinely, that was always going to be Hop's third wish. The
Mm.
only difference was her trying to make the gesture of, if you do come back, I want you to know I didn't squeeze as much use out of you as possible before letting you go. This was not, I'm letting you go because I said I would and it's the last thing and I'm sort of my own agreement I'm obligated to now. It's like, no, like, you're a person and I want to know if this is genuine. Screw the second wish. Let's get to the bit where we find out whether we're friends.
That really will matter too, because I don't think either you or Doc Hop are experts in genie culture,
Yeah.
but I think you can imagine the indignity such a arrangement is considered in their society, and I think even one wish is actually a huge difference. So I think
Yeah.
you will you will live to appreciate that choice.
That's
Um,
I as a player I hope so, but as a character I was like, even if that's not how it pans out, I felt like it was the only choice Hop could have made there.
Hmm. I liked it a lot. Almost done here. Moving into one of our last questions, sponsored by Kaniku Fan, a good Brent, Blue Sky Bitch for Let's Talk About Snacks podcast, Midlife Stasis, conduit of finally changing his Patreon name for the first time since season 5. Wow. You remember season 5? So long
Oh,
ago. Bleaker and Ebrand, when this creature enters, sacrifice it. When this creature dies, put it into play tapped. That creates an infinite loop. Just throw on some sort of payoff and you win the game instantly. So this season we've been doing level 1 and level 20 sheets. Has the level 20 sheet been overwhelming? Has the level 1 sheet been terrifying? And how does it feel to play such a big warlock?
the level one the level 20 sheet has not been overwhelming. It's been really fun as a toolbox, but it does really remind me how much building up toward a high level character as you go through a campaign has the benefit of, as you play, you realize what things your character is like drastically missing in their toolbox and can pick things as you go to spec toward them. It's
Mm-hmm.
really easy to make a level 20 character and then suddenly realize as you're playing them there is a really big hole in your options list, such as Hop not having any offensive spells. Um, and it's the kind of thing that if I'd realized that with, like, I was, as I was leveling up, I'd of course corrected toward those things I was missing and I'd have had a more rounded character. But much like getting really bad rolls, there is something really fun about realizing there's a fundamental fuck up about your character who has no level up potential and going, I have to work with this powerful but with gaps in it toolset. Um,
I trimmed out a little bit of the conversation because there was a lot of us looking stuff up. But when we realized that you didn't have Eldritch Blast, there was like a 5 minute first starting as panic, us being like, should we fix this? Okay, let's fix this. And then to just accepting our fate and being like, actually,
I
fuck it, we
thought I
ball.
had taken it. I was certain I had taken it. I was certain it was on there, and it wasn't. And I'm so thankful for that deck of shitty things giving me full punch power, because that has been my saving grace. I am not supposed to be a punch character, but it's been so weirdly fun. Particularly, like, and this is no secret, we talked about this on the show, but given that Rex's whole thing was inadequacy and, like, I'm not good at the things I'm supposed to be good at, Hop suddenly being the effective puncher of the party, beautiful in its
Classic.
moment, and led to a build that no sensible person would ever give a level 20 character, and that's all the more fun.
It's really funny, but yeah, I was a little worried because this, is a kind of a big swing. It's an unusual setup for a season. I think it's been going great, but also I have a much bigger bird's eye view of everything. I was just curious how does it feel as a player because also warlocks traditionally pretty powerful in our show because we take a lot of short rests and we do a lot of talking,
Mm.
which are really work for them. So I was just curious.
Honestly, I've been really enjoying it. I like the really limited tool set at level 1 and the fact that it really forces you to. The couple of tools you do have, particularly your cantrips, you have to think of as many ways to make use of them as possible because you are so far into a campaign having only those to hand. Um, and again, the moments where you get to jump to level 20, really, really powerful. But also the way that you've done this season with the magic items instead of level up rewards. It means that like those level 1 items become really good opportunities to be an extra tool in your pocket when your character is squishy and vulnerable. And the flexibility you've given us on pitching what those could be has really helped to create a character that still feels level 1 fundamentally in terms of I can't hit for shit, I've got no spells, and I'm squishy as anything. But that I still have fun tools that I want in my pocket that feel related to my story, that give me some utility.
That's what I was hoping for. Yeah, I don't know if we've ever said this explicitly, but the power curve for the level 1 sheets is kind of in the first downtime you get a level item with a spell equivalent ability of a level 1 spell. In the second downtime you get a second level spell, third down, et cetera, et cetera. So you are getting access to more powerful stuff each time, but also with basically unlimited flexibility. I don't know if I've ever said no to anything on this show ever, to my own massive difficulty.
I
But yeah,
think
that's
I
what
think
I'm
you've
going for.
occasionally balanced like how frequently a thing could be used, but I think you've been very open
Yeah.
to this is what you want in your tool set. Cool. How can we give you a reasonable number of uses of that isn't going to steamroll everything, which I think is a great way to go about it.
That's what I'm going for. Yeah, if one of you was like, I want an item that does the light cantrip, I'd be like, yeah, sure, that works infinitely. It's
Yeah.
fine. But if yeah, a stronger spell, it's like the Gucci sunglasses is the one I'm always curious if I made them too powerful because Quinn can switch their skill every episode. Probably overpowered, but also not worth worrying about when I have so many other plates spinning. So,
Mm-hmm.
moving into our last question, sponsored by Matt Lackus, doesn't have the mental energy to update their Patreon name anymore, but still listens to every episode avidly. Thank you. And Francois V, a deleted scene and everything, everywhere, all at once. This season kind of pivots, kind of everything circles around the Gladys Accords. How do you, Laura Kate Dale, feel about them? And is it different from Hop? And how is that role playing kind of a whole season about it? This an issue?
When I think about the Gladys Accords, I think a lot about the Cold War and about the idea of very dangerous things in our world being considered acceptable for everyone to have if that creates a sort of unspoken stalemate where no one uses them because everyone has them, and the idea is that none of us need to be. We can all live in peace while everyone has bombs pointed at each other. And the fundamental problem that, like, the decades since the Cold War have shown, that's not the case. All that means is that both sides live in constant fear of, yeah, but what if they use them, though? It doesn't create that sort of stalemate of peace that you assume everyone having access to the dangerous thing will do. That's just not how it works. Beyond that, I'm going to make a slightly strange pull here, but I recently watched the stage play version of Doctor Strangelove, um,
Oh, okay.
in which Steve Coogan plays multiple characters in a. It's essentially a story about a Cold War situation where someone in the Air Force decides to call a nuclear strike on Russia, and this fumbling series of events where people realize that the chain of command that's supposed to be able to stop something like this going wrong is woefully inept. But the reason I bring it up is there's this whole point in Doctor Strangelove where it's brought up that, oh no, you need to stop Russia getting nuked. They have they have a bomb that they haven't announced to the world yet. That if they get nuked, this bomb will get set off, and the whole planet will be gone. Like, they have a countermeasure that if they get bombed, the whole planet is gone, and it's the ultimate. don't fuck with me or you are toast mechanism. But the reason I bring it up is they hadn't announced to the world they had it yet, and the problem is that kind of countermeasure of, the dangerous thing that you have so that no one will ever fuck with you is only that if people know it exists and know not to fuck with you. And this, to bring this all back to the Gladys Accords, I think a lot about, like, the idea of, fundamentally going in to investigate, does someone have a super dangerous thing that they're not telling you they have, is important, I think, in the sense of, you don't want a situation where, oh no, someone sneezed too hard over in this mountain range and didn't know that that would set off the thing that nukes us all. They hadn't told anyone yet they had there, or I'm just keeping it around in case I need it. Those kind of things. But the replica... I think this is why I've been playing Hop. I've not thought a huge amount about, like, necessarily Hop's personal thoughts as much about, like, destruction versus replication. But every time we've been deciding what to do with a thing that we think is too dangerous, I've always had Hop be on the side of destroy it. And I've had, like, a different reason that Hop would believe that each time. But when I think about myself, I think I lean towards that idea of a Cold War where everyone has the nuke doesn't create peace, it creates a constant lingering background terror that we're all just kind of living in the, yeah, but what if someone presses it, though? And that's not healthy for anyone. It would be better if no one had the nukes, but in order to have that world, or to go from the world we have right now to that world, you would probably need people sneaking in and going, just double-checking that you haven't gone, yeah, we agree to no nukes, but I do still have a nuke, though. And that so much of the fundamental reason that countries justify having them is, yeah, but what if someone has one, though? And I think that's a lot of what's tied into my thoughts of, like, destruction versus replication in the Gladys Accords and justifying the snooping for things.
I threw you all a real softball this season. Just a real simple conundrum. Not
Yeah.
100 years of history to think about.
I didn't. When the season started, I didn't think I had this complicated thoughts about it, and I have thought so much about the Cold War this season.
I think the original name of my document for the season was Dragon Cold War. I think I pulled back a little bit because I just didn't want it to be 1-to-1 where there's just Dragon America and Dragon Soviet Union, but like it's obviously still there. I was wondering if I let you all find a nuke too early because it seemed like such an escalation,
No,
but it was so funny.
I like that we got that out the way so early so that the later things could be more seemingly mundane. Because again, this is part of, like, I've been trying to play this with a very Cold War mentality, and the thing about the Cold War is so much of it wasn't about the actual danger of the thing that the other side has. It's about the imagined danger the other side presents. And it was very easy to fall into the trap of paranoid overthinking of, like, what if this is all some secret double bluff, triple bluff, quadruple bluff plan that is actually what they want to happen? And that makes it really easy to have stuff like we had the item that's like, oh, it's a healing item, and to go, yeah, but we've got to destroy it in case the bad people use it to heal too many of their soldiers and make an unstoppable army. It's not being able to think about the positive implications of a technology when you're in a Cold War, and the idea is, yeah, but if we have this, the other side will fundamentally end up with it, and we can't trust them with it, so we've got to get rid of it for everyone, including us, despite the amazing, wonderful benefits it could have for us outside of war contexts.
I'm happy with how that turned out because when I make a choice for the party, I try to have all sides have a point, where anyone could reasonably go a certain way. It just makes it like a juicier conversation.
Mm.
But I kind of, in the back of my mind, thought, oh, they'll take the infinite healing item because they want it to use it. You all have level 1 sheets, but like no, the paranoia won out, which is cool.
Yeah, I think it would have been really useful, and I think, again, it would solve, like, a society-wide problem for a community, but, like, so much of it ends up boiling not even like Cold War comparison, but to like the way that people don't want like university tuition fees cancelled because well I had to like I don't want to do something nice for someone else if it's not something nice for me. And it's the we can't have a nice thing in case the bad people get the nice thing. And like that as a way to like drive paranoia about the other to the point of denying yourself positive advancement. I love that shit.
Very, very fun. I think we can all summarize this conversation, though, by saying that you are trying to protect Doc Hop from having their precious bodily fluids sapped and impurified. Is the Doctor Strangelove
Yeah,
quote?
yeah, sure.
All right, we're about to wrap this up. We are, in fact, going to take a half an hour break and then record the finale, I think, of a future arc. So that's exciting.
Ooh.
I am really happy with how everything's turning out. I think this is a really cool season, and everyone's doing a great job. The more I do this, the more I realize the quality of this season is basically directly proportional to how well the characters work together. Like, I have very limited ability actually to like improve a season if the characters aren't having fun together. So I
I love
appreciate it
when I
very
get to
much.
have fun with the other characters on the show. Ah, that's so good. Mm.
It is very good. Thank you, Laura, for joining me. I will see you very soon. Is there anything you want to plug? This is coming out ASAP, so the plugs can be timely
Ooh,
instead of having to try to line
okay,
them up.
let's do my timely plug. Go pick up my children's transpositive children's picture book, Me and My Dysphoria Monster. It got banned from libraries in the state of Tennessee by a guy who is proud to be called a Nazi. So if you want to like say a big fuck you to that guy and support like a positive, affirming children's book I wrote, that the whole point of it is it's okay to have hope and to grow up to be someone you want to be. Go check out Me and My Dysphoria Monster. I'm proud of that book. It got a good review from Kirkus, who are the fancy people who tell book reviewers, like bookshops, what books to buy. And it got shortlisted for an award for representation in children's media. So, Me and My Dysphoria Monster, go check that out.
Reaching out to catch the sun, to hold it in our hands, longing for something strong, to hide our weaknesses, the light may disappear.